Welcome to the Garden of Eden, otherwise known as life. St. Germans is the former capital city of West Barbary, as Cornwall was anciently known. Emblem, the black and red chough. Ombelairs in Cornish, each bird rumoured to contain a slither of King Arthur's soul, and without rumour, history is a very, very dry biscuit. A country with its own language, Cornu British, or Brythanic, derived from Phoenician, its own stannery or tinning parliament, and continuing aspirations towards independence. Cornwall, for example, treated James I's lethal McCarthyite injunctions against witches with a complete indifference, considering witches and their medical skills far too important to be microwaved. Port Eliot is called Port because the site of the park and pleasure grounds was once a tidal bay. It's called Eliot after the family who bought it in 1560, and St. Germans after St. Germanus. It was a town, Llanindeth, in the Bronze Age and became a city in 1909 AD, when the planners moved in and gave it a cathedral, a large peddling market and a housing estate containing a population occasionally responsive to the edicts of King Athelstan. It's successfully striven since to elbow all the attributes that now make cities important. In 430, Germanus gave it his seal of good housekeeping. Germanus was a Duke of Gaul, Bishop of Auxerre, who slept in ashes, abstained from salt, had power over demons, and made chickens crow, and had been specially selected by Saint Celestine to put down the Pelagian heresy, then all the rage in Britain. There. But now, I'll give you a little bit more about that one. The Pelagians believed that just because Jesus Christ had resurrected from the dead, it didn't mean that everybody could. And they had 15,001 spears to prove and punctuate the point, threatening to turn Germanus and his heresy stompers into cribbage boards if they didn't like it or lump it. Well, with 15,001 lump hammers to massage the message, the argument began to appear irresistible. As well as being noted for collecting swatches of royal hair, Edward Eliot, 1727 to 1804, was also a close friend of Dr. Johnson, once putting the doctor to shame by mentioning a book during dinner with Sir Joshua Reynolds, which Johnson hadn't read. In days, it is claimed, when it was possible to have read everything that had ever been published. Edward Eliot relieved the doctor's distress by turning him on to mahogany, a village speciality consisting of 2 parts gin and 1 part treacle, recommending it as black as coffee and as strong as mustard. It enabled Cornish fishermen to see mermaids, krakens, and triple-humped plesiosaurs in every rock pool. There then followed a series of tall, spare Victorian and Edwardian earls and countesses moving up and down the corridors of Port Eliot, fairly silent to history. Small rooms or dwellings discipline the mind, large ones weaken it. Leonardo da Vinci. One ensured that the kitchen was 110 yards from the dining room, so that the smell of boiled cabbage could be kept to a minimum. Another insisted that the newspapers were ironed in winter so that they were warm enough to read, but they would then refuse to read them for fear of ill news. One was prone to summoning servants simply to inform him which room he was in. One was dribbled on as a child by Tennyson, location hunting for the passing of Arthur. He grew up to dislike poetry. Another was described on the court page of the Times as stiff as a poker, but without the warmth. To serve and to be served were not considered folds in the same cloth. "Do you go to church, Lady St. Germans?" a newly installed vicar of St. Germans politely inquired of the penultimate countess. "Yes, every Christmas," came the reply. "And you, my lord?" "Oh, rather less often." The 8th Earl Montague Eliot replied distantly, turning his face towards the park, his preferred place of worship. Nicholas Eliot, the present Earl, left this misty languor to become a prize-fighter in Tangiers, swearing never to return. Between bouts he gave the place to his son Peregrine Eliot, a stentor in the Cornish Parliament and president of the Harley-Davidson Club, who is building a maze in the park with a DNA spiral in the brickwork. It will cost a penny to get in and 10 pence to get out. He occasionally mounts expeditions to the Atlas Mountains when the Cornish chuff quota falls below par, endangering Arthur's soul, and is given to wondering whether or not the lord of the dance might not have washed his pumps in St. Germans River, since his uncle Joseph of Arimathea reputedly brought him to Cornwall to inspect the tin mines at Creebrawls between Chasewater and St. Day. If the directors of Arimathea Inc., with their somewhat more than token lord on the board, were ever, as legend has it, moved to travel on from their Cornish inspections towards Glastonbury, then they would have passed through Llanendef or St. Germans. The family crest is an elephant, for reasons the family appear to have forgotten, though the elephant may not have. The elephant has in fact the lowest metabolic rate of any mammal, which is consequently able to retain its memory for longer, thus quite possibly never forgetting, though human beings, having dismissively turned the former caryatides of the universe into a caged and bowdlerized jumbo, are in no great position to know.